HomePod.
Okay.
And I really want to know this because I'm an Apple guy and I want to know whether I should get one or not because I've already down the line with Amazon Alexa. So what's going on?
Well, for one thing, it releases tomorrow or tonight or sometime in the morning. Apple hasn't exactly said, but usually when they do pre-orders, it's a 12 a.m. Pacific time
I'm not getting
situation.
up at 3 a.m. to order a speaker.
So 3 a.m. Eastern or wherever the applicable time zone is your area is. There's reports that they're pretty limited as Apple Apple products are. People have been throwing around 500,000, 1 million. That's probably not accurate, but if you want one, you should probably pre-order it.
Yeah.
They're $350, and that's where the problem comes in because we're not used to paying $350 for a smart speaker. And here's the rub. Apple is not selling it as a smart speaker. They're selling it as a speaker, a home speaker. They say it revolutionizes home music and blah, blah, blah.
That falls in line with a lot of the way that they position themselves.
Yep.
They've not positioned themselves as a tech company. They position themselves as a lifestyle and consumer
company.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is about the sound.
This
not
is about
being
the
smart.
sound, yeah. And the big thing is that it works with Apple Music, which none of the other home speakers do. Google Home, Amazon Echo, what have you. You're locked out of Apple Music, and that's by Apple's design.
Right.
And Apple Music has some 30 to 35 million subscribers, so it's not a small service by any stretch. I subscribe to it.
I do too.
And it's a good service. It's the benefit obviously is if you have a huge iTunes library, it pulls everything up to the cloud and you have access to everything. And when you add a new track, it integrates nicely. So that's the benefit for the Apple ecosystem. But the big thing is this is the first real service that integrates by voice with a smart speaker. Mm-hmm. So if you're an Apple Music subscriber, you're going to be interested. However, it costs $350. And we're used to $100 Google Homes. We're used to $49 Amazon Echo Dots.
Right.
Even the most expensive Amazon device is only $2-something.
But again, it sounds like this is aimed primarily at Apple's audience, which is used to paying premium prices.
It is. You're absolutely right. But Apple is entering a war right now. I mean,
and they're late, very late.
They're very late
game.
to the battle, and
that's not unusual for them either, though, is it?
No, it's not.
They've almost always been second or third
not
in
this
line
late.
to do things. They want to do them right.
Well, this feels late, and it feels like featureless,
late and half baked.
Yeah, it really does feel like they're coming in late, and I don't think they've got the killer use for this, other than if you're a technophile, I mean an audiophile who has to have the best sounding whatever, and you haven't gotten a Sonos yet. Maybe.
First of all, if you're an audiophile, you're not streaming music.
Right.
So there's one problem there. Yeah. But there's Google Home Max, which has a very similar array of speakers, a larger woofer. So that's going to sound pretty similar. There's the Sonos One, which is a smart speaker, which has the Sonos technology behind it, which is good. Apple Music only streams, I believe, in 256.
Yeah, correct.
So we're not talking about a high quality, like Tidal quality sound here. We're streaming music, and it's supposed to, learn your space and learn where you're in, and use the acoustics of your room and bounce sound offs dynamically. But, is that what people want in a home speaker? When people hear home speaker, they think Alexa, they think Siri, and they think Google Assistant.
Right.
And those features in HomePod are secondary.
Could this be a situation where Apple is focusing right now on the audio part of it in an effort to just get people to buy it, and then we'll be building out the Siri stuff and the HomeKit stuff around this
maybe so
down the road? Again, even then, they're really late.
They're really late, and let's not forget, Siri was first.
I know.
We're how many years? 5 years now.
5 years.
Amazon came along years after and leapfrogged them. Google has only been out for 2 years, and Google Assistant, and they leapfrogged them.
Yeah.
Apple has been very slow to either understand what the place of a AI assistant is in your house, or they just aren't interested in those types of uses yet. And there's nothing that I see in HomePod or in iOS or in anything that Apple's doing that suggests they're on the verge of a breakthrough in this department. And yeah, Apple does arrive late to many parties, but they bring some awesome food with them to these parties. I mean, and you want to. HomePod is expensive.
It feels like a bag of chips. as
And-
the party is
and
winding down.
You know, a really expensive bag of chips that I don't know if anybody wants to eat.
Exactly.
You know,
And yet you're going to be up at 3 a.m. to order one of these.
I have to have one because
Explain that.
well, two reasons. One, it's my job.
Okay. Okay.
And
Apple's
Apple's
I've used that
not in
one
the
a lot.
business of
Yeah, I
sending
use that
these
a lot,
things out
too.
to everybody.
Okay, because it's your job.
But number two, I have a lot of home speakers in my house. I have I have 4 Amazon Echo devices. I have 3 Google Homes in various rooms, and I want to see how it integrates. What Apple brings to the table here. I don't use HomeKit for anything. I have Ring, I have Nest, I have Hue. I have a ton of smart stuff in my house. I tried them all. I integrated them
You
all.
don't
My
use HomeKit
favorite.
with the Hue? Because I do.
don't. I mean, I can.
Yeah.
But I find
Okay.
that I can just say, Alexa, turn on my living room lights, and boom,
I know.
done.
Yeah.
I don't have to go into my phone, go into an app, do slide. I mean,
you can say, "Hey Siri."
yeah, but my phone has to be near me,
Yeah, true. Oh,
and that's
sorry, Siri. Never mind.
when I'm home. I don't want to be worried about where my phone is.
Right,
So yeah, Siri will work with HomePod and will work with lights, but there's a lot of things that don't.
right.
Apple was slow to that game as well, where they forced the smart home manufacturers to have a chip.
Well, HomeKit came out, and then nothing happened with it.
Because Apple
Right.
placed these kind of draconian rules on them. Amazon said, here, if you want to put Alexa, here's the code.
Right.
Amazon said you have to authenticate with this chip. They're just removing that in 11.3.
Right.
So that's going to change, and that will presumably speed up adoption of these devices. But there are HomeKit manufacturers that just have a HomeKit device in addition to their other ones because Apple made it so tough
Yeah.
to kind of, to integrate Siri and to integrate HomeKit into their devices.
Which is surprising because, I mean, Apple's whole, shtick is that it just works. Things just work. And
it just works if you pay us.
Yeah, that too. But I mean, in terms of like the IoT home automation stuff that's going on right now, things don't just easily work.
Right.
I mean, just trying to connect up a Philips Hue bulb to your Wi-Fi and then authenticate it to your phone app and then get it to the, you got to add the skill to Alexa. And this is not something that most people are going to spend their time doing.
Yeah.
And Apple could rush in there if that was the the reason for being late and just say one solution, easy to set up, done.
Right.
They're not even doing that.
Apple doesn't even sell a mesh system. They don't even really sell a Wi-Fi.
They've gotten away from
anymore.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, everyone's doing these mesh systems where you blanket your home with Wi-Fi, so you can run these
So you can do
cameras
that.
and things without worrying about it. And Apple doesn't. They're getting away from the Airport Extreme stuff and the Time Machine stuff, and they were leaders in that department too. Ease of use. It was more expensive, but it was easy to set up. It provided a great strong signal, and you could back up all your stuff easily. And
then they walked away from it.
and they walked
basically.
away. Yeah.
All
So we'll see. I mean, Apple needs to have HomePod, and they
Yeah.
need to have a horse in this race. So it's good that it's coming out, and it's good that they're doing it, and they'll sell a couple million to people like me and you, and who are Apple.
I'm still on the fence
All
officially.
right.
by
Well,
the
maybe
way.
not, but
We'll know tomorrow.
they'll sell plenty of them
Right.
to early Apple adopters, and then we'll see where it goes. Because by all accounts, Amazon is the far and away industry leader, and Google Home not too far behind, and HomePod is right now not even out of the gate until tomorrow. So
Well, pre-orders tomorrow, arrives on February 9th.
Yep.
Presumably, we'll be back to like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks of delivery after about noon
there's
tomorrow,
no
if not
question
before.
about that. Yeah.
Because limited supplies, which
And
will, of
it's
course,
also missing multi-room audio, which was one of the features they touted.
Yeah, it's
going
gonna
to
roll out later this year after an update.
It looks like 11.3 in the spring.
because that was one of the whole points is you get 2 of these things,
Right.
and then you could, they would adjust to where they are.
$700 later.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So Apple maybe, I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah.
But maybe this is.
I don't think it's a misstep. I mean, they can do it. They can do whatever they want. They have
They're
tons
so
of money.
big. Yeah.
So they, but I think they need to focus a little more of their energy on what HomePod means to the smart home movement.
Agreed. Any other thoughts, Serdar, Michael, on HomePod? Not going to be up at 3 in the morning to buy one of these things?
I'm not an Apple user,
Yeah.
and I've always been a little leery of home automation technology in general, in big part because so much of it seems so half-baked or underbaked.
It is.
And because a lot of the solutions, again, they seem like a solution that's in search of an actual problem. Because a lot of the things that are solved by it are not things that I find myself tripping over.
I don't know. When I say Alexa good night and all my lights go off and my alarm system sets, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, maybe some of it is because I grew up in a household where I was trained to shut off the lights every time I left the room because electricity was expensive. So, it's one of those things where when the use case comes and it seems really compelling, then I'm going to take a real interest in it. And right now the use case seems it's incremental, not really transformative or revolutionary to me. And it needs to be more than that for me to really make a commitment to it, especially a $250 per piece commitment.
$350.
Yeah,
$350. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I see. To me, I think the use case is when it gets tied to geolocation, and you're driving home and you walk up to your house and the lights come on and the door unlocks and the music starts playing and all of that, which sounds like something out of 2050.
Well, you can my lights go on when I approach my house.
Yeah.
You can do.
I just
parts
realized.
of that now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just realized there is another valid use case for this, which is for people who have physical disabilities.
Yes.
Absolutely.
There's a friend of mine who is almost completely blind and almost completely deaf, and he is actually, I think he would be, for instance, a very good market for this sort of thing because it would allow him to do a lot of remote control without endangering himself.
Yep.
So things like that, I think, are relatively underserved by this because it doesn't sound anywhere nearly as science fiction-y to a lot of people. It sounds very niche-y, but the thing is that we've become that much more conscious of how people with disabilities do want to live that much more completely, and this is a way to empower that.
And Apple is, they're at the forefront of accessibility with the iPhone and things like this that they do. So I'm absolutely sure that going forward, that will be a spotlight or an area of concentration.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And it's also, these things also useful for people living alone, elderly,
Yep.
In terms of giving them some connection to the world that they don't have to figure out a computer. They can just say, Alexa, something, or Siri, do this or that, and dial 911, something like, anything like that. So I do think that there are ways this will gradually work its way into our world. But I agree, Apple's expensive and late to the game.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other final thoughts about anything we've talked about?
What's blockchain again?
Distributed ledger.
That's always the hardest part, isn't it?
It is.
Explaining. Everybody is like, I'm going to invest in it, and they don't even know exactly what it is.
Blocks in a chain, distributed ledger. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Do it off the air. Mike, Sardar, thank you so much for being here. Now you know what we know.